Hey, Tracy here. This is like my third time or fourth time recording this, so hopefully I'll get it right. And Mercury just ended retrograde, so I don't know why I'm having so many problems. Anyway, I am going to start a new series. I study evolutionary astrology, and I want to focus on different charts and historical figures, current celebrity figures, and go through and look at their evolutionary purpose, what they have gotten hung up on, what they're trying to move toward in this life, and just take a look at their overall charts and what their soul is trying to do and their purpose for incarnating here at this time. Um, for the first person that I picked, I did choose Princess Diana. I'm not exactly sure why I picked her. I it probably, I think it is because she has a Leo 29-degree south node north node in the eighth house. Um, and her south node is in Aquarius at 29 degrees in the second house. And I have those exact same placements. Um, so I am going to share her chart and kind of walk through her chart and explain it a little bit and kind of, go through and help you understand what she, a little bit more about her, what her chart says, and walk you through the evolutionary side of astrology. So let me do that. Okay, so um, here we've got Princess Diana's chart. I believe it was a rating, so the highest is double A, but an A is pretty good. They're pretty either her birth time is pretty close, and they're pretty confident about it. So we're going to go through that. I won't be doing any charts if they're not A or double A rated, just for clarity purpose. So we're going to start with the evolutionary side, and then we'll kind of tie everything together. Uh, as I mentioned, we've got her north node in Leo, and her south node is in Aquarius. Second house, north node is in the eighth house. If you're unfamiliar with the nodal axis, they're the nodal axis of the moon. Um, and we all have them in our chart, and they move retrograde. Um, and what they are, the south node are energies that we mastered or maybe we're too good at or that held us back in our last lifetimes. Um, and the North Node is what we're trying to merge, integrate, and work with in this lifetime. Um, the universe, souls, we everything, in the universe wants balance. So our souls want to be balanced. And if we're too heavily skewed on one set of energies, um, then our soul wants to balance that out. So she was, she's got a lot going on here with her nodal axis. So she had something in a past life that likely really, I'm going to say, ended her life fairly early. And maybe, a few past lives, more than one. And she really, it was very important that her soul really wanted to get this taken care of. And I will say at 29 degrees, your soul, it's an anaretic degree. It's ready, your soul's ready to master it. And there are often um, evolutionary challenges or, situations that kind of put you in a position where you're going to work toward, you know, facing these energies so you can integrate them. Your soul's kind of, you signed up to get it done this time, basically. Um, so we'll start with the South Node, and I've got my notes. If you see me look, I did type up a lot of notes about her chart. But we'll kind of walk through everything, and if you have questions, in the comments, or if there's anybody you want me to go over their chart and take a look at, let me know. I'm going to try to do this weekly. And I may start, you know, for for the sake of education for myself and for anyone else, I may look at important dates within the life, like maybe her marriage, like for Princess Diana, maybe her marriage, and as well as the date of her death, which is also very, from an astrological uh, point of view, very interesting. Um, I think sure her soul really chose to check out when it did and go home. I think she mastered what she came to master, and but that's a side note. But I may start adding some of those within, some of these talks that we do. Um, so anyway, the second house, Aquarius, I'm going to, and we kind of talk about from an evolutionary point, different, obviously, we don't know about her past life or past lives that led up to this one, but we kind of walk through different scenarios just to help paint a picture of things that and how it ties into astrology. Um, you know, so when I go through, it's more talking about the energies and maybe what she could have, focused or held her back, or you know, um, it's not, set in stone because obviously I wasn't there, or maybe I was, but I don't remember and I don't know for sure. So, it's kind of understanding the energies and how they could have operated back then. Um, so 29-degree Aquarian South Node, Aquarius is very good at detaching. We can watch our lives and not feel our lives. In the second house, it was likely that she did this in a role that she was supposed to play, um, likely a similar role to this life that she had, where she was a noble woman, or someone expected to behave and act and look a certain way. Um, and with that moon on there, the moon opposite, often represents the mother or the family. So there was probably some family expectations to behave a certain way, look a certain way, act a certain way, be a certain way, do things a certain way. And in the second house, she felt her worth was tied to this. Like she felt she had to do this. She felt maybe a sense of security by having to do this. She felt if she, was to show people who she was, what she wanted to do, that it was not safe, that she would be letting her family down. Aquarius sees the big picture. It wants to be individual and express its individuality, but it can see the big picture, and maybe in a past life she detached so much that she lost herself in a sense of duty for the safety that the family provided in whatever way that looked. So she just felt beholden. And her Chiron is here, but in Pisces in the second house. So Chiron is the wound that she came with, and it is the wound we all have in our charts that we heal and help teach others from. Um, for example, when Uranus hit my natal Chiron, I was diagnosed with BRCA and had to have, hysterectomy and mastectomy. So that's a wound I had to confront. That's a whole nother story I can talk about another time, but it is something that shows up in our charts. And with hers being conjunct her south node in Pisces, in that second house, I would assume, Pisces is ruled by modern day Neptune, and it's more of the collective consciousness. It's the dream state. It is um, a formless, boundless energy. I would say she likely did not know who she truly was, where she began, where she ended, what exactly she wanted to do. She was probably so detached from her own life that she just didn't know who she was. She probably didn't have a sense of grounding. She probably was just, I would say, living in a fog. Neptune and Pisces is a foggy energy. She was probably just living in this fog, acting out, doing the motions day to day. It's very porous. It absorbs the energies and emotions and feelings of others. So she probably felt this heavy pressure on her to behave and and perform this role and this duty that she had in this lifetime or lifetimes. Um, so and the South Node, as I mentioned in Aquarius, is ruled by modern day Uranus. And I'll get to Saturn, the traditional ruler, in a little bit. I want to get the nodal axis done. Um, so Uranus is up here, conjunct the North Node. So something unexpected. And I say unexpected because Uranus is sudden liberation. It's unexpected. It's electric. It's shocking. Um, something unexpected got in her way because her south node is down here and it's opposite. So something unexpected got in the way of who she was. And she, um, and again, it was likely family because family again is opposite and the emotions and needs of the family. So Uranus is here to help liberate her North Node. Leo wants to shine. In the eighth house, that is letting other people see her, the raw truth of who she is. And as we did, we very much learned who she was. She exposed truths about herself, about others that she knew or were with, about the systematic collections that I'll get to in a minute. So Uranus was here to help whatever held her back and shock, whatever shocking surprise in a past life that may have ended her life or kept her from living. Uranus was going to expose that in this life. Um, and then you also have Pluto and Mars conjunct her North Node. So, um, okay. Let me, is it still sharing? Sorry, I had to deal with some children. And okay. So we've got the Pluto and um, Mars are up here, conjunct that North Node. Um, and I'll get to that in a minute because Pluto and Mars um, both rule Scorpio, which is her 10th, a lot, a big portion of her 10th house. So I find that very interesting. But Mars can be accidents or severing. Pluto, sudden death in the eighth house. So again, whatever got a hold of her in the last past life, something shocking, upsetting, a quick death, eighth house, someone that she was in a close relationship with, likely. Doesn't have to be a spouse, but someone within a family unit, more than likely. Um, you know, and it's in um, Virgo, which I'll get to in a minute. Well, so let me get back up. So back to this uh, Aquarian moon. Um, so Aquarius rules her sun, how she saw herself, and her Mercury, how she perceived and communicated life. And Cancer is very nurturing and it's the great mother. It wants to tend to people, it wants to take care of people, um, and wants to, you know, just really just serve people, like, like a mother. It wants to, heal. Um, so she, her detached, she could feel very detached from life, but she also at the same time wanted to help heal people and heal others through the way she lived her life and communicated and spoke and shared her life. Um, so again, as I'm going back to this Pluto and Mars, they're oh, and sorry to back up again, but the back to a someone that she knew um and was in a relationship with of some sort. It doesn't have to be a husband or wife, depending on who, she was married to. But her sun and Mercury are in the seventh house. Um, so again, since that Pluto and Mars are in Virgo, which is ruled by Mercury, I tend to think it was probably a spouse, you know, that maybe killed her or had her killed. Virgo's very meticulous and plans out. It could have been a planned out death. Um, Perhaps she shared a shocking secret that got her killed, Mercury being involved. Um, and something came to like end her life very abruptly and suddenly. Um, and that again got in the way with that, with it opposing that South Node. It got in the way of her living and shining and showing who she was, that Leo. So that to me is likely what happened in that past life, that she just was so detached um, from that life and something happened in a relationship that really just kind of ended it um, and brought it to an end abruptly. Um, as I mentioned, Pluto and Mars rule Scorpio. Her MC is in Libra. Um, However, MC is our most highest visible point, the one that people see us as. The people that don't know us, the community at large, the collective. Like, you know, to people that, like, I'm a mother. So they see me to the world as a mother. When my progressed MC hit my Uranus, I um, ended up finally deciding to leave my marriage. So it was like at that point, it was a shocking, a liberation and ending to the world. Like I was married, now I'm no longer married. So it's that kind of, it's the people who don't know you the best, but like your main view of who you are on the world stage, basically the collective stage. So, like I mentioned, a lot of the 10th house is in Scorpio. So her domain in public, it was never going to be about an easy breezy life. She was about Scorpio sees the true intentions. It sees the light, it sees the shadow. Scorpio is ruled, is ruled by Pluto and Mars. It's Pluto is the underworld. It sees the true depths. It feels the true intentions of what is being expressed. And so she was here to show that. 10th house, the most visible part of her chart, um, was to show the unpleasantries of the life that she lived, the the institutions of which she was a part of, which, as we know, she did. Um, Neptune is here. Neptune, again, is the modern day ruler of Pisces. Neptune is the formless, the boundless, illusions, dreams, separations. So, Neptune in Scorpio 8th, we put we as the collective put onto her. You know, when Neptune is visible in somebody's chart, again, they can be real porous and it's an illusion. It's like Hollywood. We see what we want to in them, and so when she got married, it was like, oh, she's the people's princess. She's everybody's like, oh, she's got this wonderful, fabulous life. She gets to marry a prince and have this beautiful large wedding and all of this hoopla and you know, people projected onto her their thoughts about who she was, what they would have wanted, what they thought she should want, things like that. And so since it was a Scorpio, she had to kind of expose some of that. Like, you've put all this illusion on me and this is not true. Um, and that Scorpio Neptune actually um trines, so they're in a harmonious conversation to that Chiron in that second house. So her wound is helping her formless wound of getting lost in the worth in the institutions that held her back in a past life is kind of helping her expose things so she can free herself and show people who she truly was. And again, in an eighth house way, eighth house is tied in with Scorpio and Pluto. Um, and well, more Pluto, Scorpio is the eighth sign. So it's really showing her light of who she truly was and not being scared to be free of that, not being scared that she was going to lose her safety and security by being herself. Um, so, Neptune again, it's in sextile, which again is a more of a harmonious flow to that, its rulers, Pluto and Mars to a lesser degree. It's a little bit wide, but still, I would count it since it rules. Um, and then in Cancer, it's a kind of a grand trine. I'll back up. So these are in a, you know, the Sun and Mercury are also in sextile. So all of that's communicating. So she's trying to heal people from their ideals by showing the darkest parts of what they're looking at through her light and what she showed and helped people heal. She didn't do it, she did not show the depths of, the monarchy to be a bitch. She was showing, you know, this is how they live. This is the it's not a fairy tale. This is something deeper and darker. And I am this wonderful person in this thing and trying to show her light, like, you know, I'm flawed. I'm human and I'm a part of this. And you don't need to put everything into it. Um, so there was a really important, you know, part of her to come through and live this out in this way and expose this. Um, so the Neptune again is in a trine because Cancer is a water sign, Scorpio is a water sign. So they're in harmonious talks with this Pisces Chiron. So they're all in a grand trine configuration. So they're all harmoniously talking. So again, her emotions were helping to, even though her moon was kind of detached and watching, all this water was helping her really feel out how to help heal people, how to learn from interacting with people, healing the collective and helping her really try to use this wound for the collective. Again, Pisces is the collective, Neptune is the collective consciousness, and she's really trying to show our shadows of what we're putting onto her. Like there are no fairy tales. There's always an underside that you're not seeing if you only look at the light. There's also dark. She was trying to help communicate and shine a light onto that for herself and for us as a society. Um, her Venus is in the fifth house. Um, and oh, yeah. And so her Venus actually squares her nodal axis. So something squaring the nodal axis is a misstep in a prior life. It was something that she did not do, did not integrate in a past life, and it held her back from advancing. Um, Fifth house is again tied to Leo and the sun. Leo is the fifth house or fifth sign, and the sun. It's the joy, our creativity, children, pleasure, uh, love affairs, things like that. So she, it could have been that secret that she, that shocking, if a I cannot talk, a shocking secret. Maybe she had a love affair. Maybe her spouse, if she was murdered by someone, whatever shocking end, maybe they had one. But there was maybe she needed a love affair in this life or the past life, and she needed to be free and joyous. And Venus is our worth and our values. So again, in Taurus, it's tied back to that second house. It's interacting with other. It's our pleasure, what we truly value and brings us joy in this lifetime. And so she was probably so detached, she didn't know what she valued and didn't have that pleasure. She was, if she was formless and living a duty bound filled life, boundaryless, then she might not have had that true love affair, a passion, something that brought her, creativity and joy. Um, and and Venus also rules her midheaven. Again, midheaven is your most visible point. So she, Taurus is more the self after Aries. It's what we value, hold dear, our worth. Libra is learning to harmonize um, and work well with others and be, it rules the seventh house. Again, Venus is tied with Libra, rules the seventh house. Libra is the seventh sign. So it's really trying to help communicate and work harmoniously with people. We see that she, really had a compassionate demeanor with people, and she really cared, and she conveyed that, and she tried to, um, you really make people know that she cared about them and balanced that healing and put that out into the world for people, and really conveyed a care for them and tried to help heal their wounds and let them know they were seen on a larger scale. Um, so then we've got, as I mentioned, Saturn it is the other ruler of um, her Aquarian South Node. Saturn is the traditional ruler. She has Saturn in Capricorn first house. So I'll back up a little bit. She is a Sagittarius ascendant. Ascendant is, to the people who know, knew her um, at, how she came off. She seemed fun-loving, jovial. She had that broad, Sagittarians are known for a big bright smile. They got a little twinkle in their eye. Um, big toothy grin. They like to have fun. It's ruled by Jupiter. It's very expansive. We want to go off and really see and experience and always we're looking to advance our life and we're the next thing. It's the archer, it's shooting their arrow and then going to the new quest. So at first glance she came off very Sagittarian, and how she looked at life was through a Sagittarian glance. She saw a deeper truth and meaning behind life, or she wanted to find the deeper truth and meaning of life. um, you know, but because she knew there was a greater purpose, and a greater optimism, that there was more than the heaviness she might have been locked in or felt in other areas of her life. Um, However, Capricorn makes up the rest of her. So as much as she felt, you know, free and came off as free, there was a very stoic side of her. Saturn also rules Capricorn. It's a very more introverted sign. It's a sign of the hermit. It's really getting to know yourself and who you are, and um, and taking time to integrate that and build who you are and figure that out. Um, she had Saturn retrograde. So all of that was integrated and internally. So she felt a very heaviness and seriousness to who she was. And you grow into Saturn. So, you can look from her younger pictures how she looked very, very timid, and there was a more restricted personality to her. And as she really got older and came in and developed and saw who she was, there was still she still knew how to have the boundaries around her. Um, but she was starting to let in some of that Leo North Node at that point, figuring out who she was, growing in, Saturn is a sign of the elder. She was really learning how to communicate who she was, to share and teach others how to be who they are, and really, educate themselves on learning to step into their power and being a little less afraid to own it and embrace it. You see some people who know who they are from a young age and live it and just do it. That is not Saturn. It is growing into that and having the experience to show um, to show people, really have the experience to learn who you are and to integrate and process and absorb and work towards, that growth and integration and expression of self. Um, Jupiter here is also retrograde in the second house. Jupiter is her chart ruler. So what Jupiter does is very important to her, was very important to her life, and its transits were very important to her as well. Um, Jupiter also rules the ninth house. Jupiter is again Sagittarian themed. It's a greater truth. It's optimistic. Our personal philosophy. It has to do with religion, royalty. Jupiter was the king of the gods. So it really goes back to that royalty in the second house, holding her, feeling bounded, Saturn, by a sense of duty and responsibility to the royal um, family and feeling restricted by them and her place and a sense of worth by, 'cause she got married so young. So she, was kind of raised in a life of privilege. You do this, you act this way, um, things like that. And you know, Jupiter retrograde, all of that was internalized. So she felt a heaviness that maybe she didn't really externalize. She saw a deeper meaning and purpose of why it was set up this way, why she was in this role, and really, felt probably locked in to the pressures. But again, with that with that Aquarian moon, she was pretty probably detached from it and likely felt that she wasn't always, even in this life, wasn't always living her life, and especially I would say toward the younger years before she really started getting into that Leo's North Node. She probably felt very detached. Again, you've got the Chiron and Pisces. So all that wounding from the past life, she was probably bleeding through. She probably felt very detached, like she was watching someone else live this life, very unsure of who she was, what she wanted, um, things like that. Um, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I'm missing. I'm sure since this is my first one, I will think of something. If you have questions, if there's anything you think I could do better to kind of explain, if you want me to go back over anything, I will. But hopefully that kind of helps you get an overview of Princess Diana, who she was, and what she was working toward. I think personally, you can look at some historical figures and see where they really um, maybe didn't do a very good job of integrating. And again, there's no judgment because it's what else we have to do? We're eternal. Um, so you can look at some souls and see where they struggled to integrate and follow the higher expressions that their soul came to do, and then you can look at other people and see where they did a very good job of it, as hard as it was. And I would actually, I think Princess Diana did a very good job of integrating a heavy chart and expressing that 29. And again, 29-degree nodal axis, you don't get to play. The universe is set up. Your blueprint has it set up where you're going to face those challenges, and it's going to be really kind of an accelerated um, incarnation to maybe get you to where you're wanting to go versus, if it's at 5 degrees or 3 degrees, maybe it's not as quite as important to master those energies. So I think she did a very good job moving from the second house of detachment and really finding her Leo fire, and Leo is the lion, and it's king and the queen, and really owning her heart expression. I mean, it really serving that Cancer side of her. She was very nurturing. And she really played out these energies, I think, in a very, very interesting way. And I think her soul did a very good job with this incarnation. Um, so yeah, as I mentioned, I think I may pick like her wedding and her death date as when she died as, and put the inner the planetary alignments and kind of talk through those as well. But again, if you've enjoyed this or wanted me to kind of walk through anybody else. If there's any suggestions, since this is the first one, I would, just as long as you're not an asshole about it. If you, want to kind of anything you'd like me to improve on or add, or, any questions you might have, just let me know. But it's been fun. I look forward to doing these. And I will see you next time. Thank you.